Welcome to The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. In the studio with me today is Robert Beavis. He is the owner of Law Weapons Supply. And they are suing the city of Naperville now after Naperville banned gun sales inside the city limits. Now, Bob, welcome to my program, first of all.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, I find this really preposterous. And as a state legislator, I sat down in Springfield in 2013 when we had to pass, we were under court mandate to pass concealed carry legislation. Mm-hmm. At that time, into the law was written particular provisions that said that municipalities cannot impede on anybody's Second Amendment rights. They cannot impose their own standard of gun ownership, for example. Now Naperville's ticking it up a little bit. They're not saying that you can't own a weapon in Naperville. They're saying you can't sell a weapon in Naperville. It's a small nuance. I know you have a lawsuit against them at this point. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that later. But in the meantime, let's go back a little bit. And I want to start by reading from the ordinance. It's very interesting. I think listeners should pay attention here because they're writing this ordinance based on things that happen far away from Naperville, have nothing to do with Naperville's current, crime at all. But they essentially say, whereas on May 14th, 2022, 10 people were murdered and 3 others were injured during a mass shooting that took place in a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. Mm-hmm. The shooter used an AR-15 style semi-automatic weapon. An 18-year-old suspect had been arrested and charged. Whereas on August 3rd, 2019, 23 people were murdered and 23 others were injured during a mass shooting at a Walmart store in El Paso, Texas. Whereas on October 27, 2018, 11 people were murdered and 6 others were died during a mass shooting that took place in the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they go on and on to Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. They start out with talking about the Independence Day shooting that happened in Highland Park, which is nearby. Mm-hmm. But they are scaremongering here by shutting down legal sales of legal weapons inside their city limits, thinking this will do anything to affect mass shooters that are largely come from dysfunctional families, largely are associated with some sort of psychotic drug use, mental largely had warning. There were warning signs prior to them shooting up places, mm-hmm. and that was all ignored by the other professionals. Instead, they want to punish you. Yeah. That's how I read the ordinance.
I would agree, except I don't think that they've done this simply because of what happened in Highland Park and that prompted them to do it, because they were thinking about doing this prior to that. In fact, we believe, Open Meetings Act violations that were going on way before that happened, more around Uvalde's time. But it's political theater, because there is nothing in that ordinance stopping a lawful firearm dealer that is federally licensed, who goes through the proper background checks and straw purchase questions to begin with, has decades of experience in the business with well-trained staff, and follow all the laws, stopping us from selling guns, but not private sales out of the trunk of a car at Jewel, does nothing to prevent a crime or stop a mass shooting or stop one bullet from coming into the hands of a criminal, or a gun into the hands of a criminal. And the reason is because criminals can't buy guns at a lawful gun shop. We won't let them. It's the craziest thing we've ever heard.
That's absolutely right. So they're punishing actually good businessmen who follow all of the rules, and they have not connected the dots on any of this.
No, and that's why I believe it's nothing but political theater. These council members want to get a higher seat in a different government office, and they believe that by standing up for the Second Amendment, they're going to have so many, we'll call them leftists, that will try to blockade them. It'll prevent them from getting a better seat or a new office somewhere else. So they use this. They use the backbone of this tragic shooting in Highland Park as the reason for them bringing it up, which is smoke and mirrors, and they know it.
Yes, we know for a fact that at least one of the Republicans on that committee definitely voted. He pretends to be pro Second Amendment, but voted for this because he's running for a higher office.
Yep.
Okay, so but let's
Absolutely.
go back a little bit. So you got involved. You are a legal firearms. You're an FFL.
Yeah, we are a federally firearms licensed dealer.
Yes.
We're also a manufacturer, an importer, and I'm a law enforcement firearms instructor. We have multiple firearms instructors that work for the company. There's about 11 in total that work for us.
And you're located on North Aurora Road. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Raymond
Okay.
and North Aurora and Naperville.
Okay, great. And you've been in business for how long? Give us a little bit of history on your business.
So we opened to the public in 2009. We started out in Oak Brook Terrace there, and we were welcomed by Mayor Pradle at the time to come into Naperville as the first gun shop in Naperville. So we took that opportunity, moved our operation to Naperville, and have had a great relationship for many, many years in Naperville with the local law enforcement and even county and state and many law enforcement agencies. And we've had an exemplary record. We've done.
So no violations. You haven't.
No.
You haven't. Sold to a straw purchaser
No.
that you know of. Nobody has been. You've not been under federal scrutiny. Your license has never been, revoked for any reason. Nope, none of that.
No,
right?
none of that at all. It's a family-run business. Everybody takes the business very seriously. We care about the laws and following them all the time. We do our best to notify law enforcement when we see something that doesn't look right.
Has that happened before? Give us an
yes.
incident where talk to us about that. So, guy comes in, wants to purchase a weapon, and you're like, that's suspicious. What have you had situations like that?
Yeah, we've had a guy come in who said he was a Chicago police officer and wanted to get a police discount, but didn't answer the questions correctly when we were asking him about, how long he's worked, what has he done there, what is his job title and stuff. Didn't have the right answers, so we notified Naperville, kept him there. Naperville actually came out, and there was actually a firearm drawn on the guy, and he was ordered to put into handcuffs, and they found out that he wasn't actually a police officer. We've had another incident where a man came in looking to buy a gun with a woman that seemed to be very distraught, and when I went to her and asked her if she was okay, she shook her head and said no. And I said, "Is he holding you against your will?" She said yes. So we took her out of the building, held that guy until police came and arrested him as well. And another incident, we had a gentleman came in with a firearm that he wanted us to repair, didn't have a FOID card with him. And I told him we'd go ahead and repair the gun, but he couldn't pick it up until he brought his FOID card. He got very angry, tried to take the gun back. We had to seize it from him. And after we convinced him to calm down, he walked out of the store. We noticed he was wearing an ankle bracelet. So we notified the police department of that, and they went ahead and followed up. It turns out that he was trying to build his own firearm to murder his sister. And he actually left our store, drove to Iowa to buy another one, and the police were able to foil that whole mess and stopped it, and he went to jail.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
You want people like that to, make mistakes, walk into your gun shop, and then you actually foil their plans for further violence.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what you want.
We're the first line of defense against a straw purchase or a person obtaining a firearm that shouldn't have one. So we take that seriously. We ask the right questions after years of work.
This is exactly how they think in Springfield, though. This is exactly how that Naperville City Council thinks. They think that they know your business better than you know your business. They think that you are not good actors in your business. They think that you violate the rules all the time. They think you don't treat your employees correctly. They don't think that you should be running your business. That's how they think in Springfield. That's how they think in Naperville. Let me give you another example of this. So when further legislation was after concealed carry legislation passed, which by court order we had to pass, there had been subsequent mass murders to which always the Democrat response was, we need to regulate these firearms out of existence. We need to do red flag laws. We need to do all this other stuff. One of the things that they wanted to do was essentially tighten down the federal firearm register licensees.
And they did.
Requirements, right? And they tightened them down. And I said, you know what? You all have admitted here in public testimony that there are maybe 10 10 total firearm licensees, dealers that have, that you can say a straw purchaser came out of in this area. And really 5 of them total in the Chicagoland area they found that there was a straw purchaser incident, right? So why don't you put further restrictions on them? Why don't I put an amendment together, and I don't remember if it was 3, I think it was within 3 years you have 3 or more incidences, then you have to have these heightened restrictions. Or maybe it was within 5 years if you have 3 or more incidences. So it was a pretty, you didn't have to have a lot of incidences, and it was a long period of time. And if you got caught doing a straw purchase, boom, you had the heightened restrictions. Nobody would entertain that idea. They want to punish all of you. They think none of you do your job well. And that is absolutely not true. I find it infuriating.
Absolutely. So what happened to the person that purchased the firearm to give to somebody else? Did they even pursue that? Now, they look at the gun shop. The gun shop has, we have a duty, we'll say, to try to ascertain that the person buying this firearm is actually buying it for lawful use. And we do that by saying, you want to see a firearm? Sure, here you go. Let me see your FOID card. We check that out, and then we'll ask a couple questions. What are you going to be doing? You doing any target shooting? Are you going hunting? Whatever. If they're buying a handgun to go hunt a rhino, we know that there's something wrong, right? Or
Right.
we'll ask questions to find out their knowledge and their background and whether or not they understand the firearm they're getting. So if you get somebody very small framed or elderly that's going to buy a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun there is, or one of them, and they're going to buy it, we're going to question why. Ma'am, it might not be the right firearm for you. But if they're adamant about that, or they'll come in and they're talking on the phone with somebody, we will deny the sale immediately. And we get a lot of people upset. We've denied hundreds of people from getting guns. You just ask
say
Naperville
that
Police.
again.
We have denied hundreds of people from getting firearms for all types of reasons, from background checks not going or them just looking suspicious. If they come in smelling like marijuana, I agree that marijuana is a federally regulated narcotic. City of Naperville allows the sale of it, which I think is wrong. But if they come in smelling like marijuana in my store, they will not get a gun or alcohol or anything. There's many, many reasons. Hundreds of people have been denied a firearm from purchasing.
And in the meantime, they're so short-sighted. You could literally move across the street
Yep.
and set up shop in Aurora, Lisle, Wheaton, whatever, any other place that abuts Naperville,
Yeah.
and you would be just fine.
Well, one of the comments that were made to me was, we don't want to collect tax money from a business where somebody goes in, buys a firearm to hunt another human. And I told them, well, then don't tax me. Right? Well, that doesn't work, but they'll accept tax money from, marijuana sales that people are driving and crash and kill other people all the time.
Absolutely.
Or alcohol tax, right? Or automobile tax or anything else. So it's an invalid reason. And like I said, this is a political stance. It has nothing to do with saving any lives. It is nothing but smoke and mirrors. The bad thing is that they know this. And what bothers me the most is that I was naive going into that first meeting thinking, hey, I'm just going to tell them that this isn't the way to do it. This isn't going to work, and I'll explain why with some facts, and they're going to go, yes, Rob, you're right. Man, we're going to throw this out. But no, when they didn't do that and I found out really what's going on, you can tell that, because I've spoken to a lot of the council members, the ones that would talk to me, if you wouldn't. And by the way, only 2 council members came into my store and even saw what we did. Patty Gustin and Mr. Hinterlog. Those are the 2 that came into my store. Everybody else, I had to track down or call, leave messages.
The mayor didn't show up?
No, mayor's never been there. Not even to look in the store and see the procedure. Come and look at the filing cabinets that are running up and down the walls that have every document we've ever used. If you want to trace a firearm, it gets traced. We have serialized over 800 guns for these are home-built guns, which Pritzker calls ghost guns, right? That don't have
Right.
serial numbers. We have the legal right to build a gun on your own by ATF rules, and since this law has come into effect, we've serialized, I think, 800 guns now. And these are 800 guns that are not on the street. They're not ghost guns that no one's ever going to find. They've been registered. They're put in the book. A background check's been done, and that person was verified to lawfully own this firearm. And now that gun is registered or literally has a traceable serial number.
So if you don't conveniently actually allow for people to conveniently do that process, they're just going to go unregistered.
Correct.
They completely are. If it's not convenient to people, they're not going to do it.
That's right. And
because they'll just take their chances.
We're one of the few that actually do it. We're one of the few gun shops that actually serialize the guns. I don't know of more than 3 in the whole state that are doing it. There could be more, but that's all I know of. So we have them coming in and bringing in 10 at a time.
Well, let's talk about another thing because
Sure.
I'm ex-military, but that doesn't make me a gun expert by any means, and I would never claim to be a gun expert. My kids, my boys are pretty good. My husband knows this stuff. Honestly, I looked at this laundry list of guns that they want to prevent the sale of, and it's not just an AR-15, which is what. And okay, how many people know what the AR stands for AR-15? Well, they think it stands for what? Assault rifle.
Yeah, they all.
They think it's no, it's not.
It stands for Armalite.
It's an Armalite rifle. That's the
correct.
manufacturer of the rifle. I mean,
or America's rifle.
They don't know that. They don't know anything about weapons, and they're basically anyway. And they don't care to learn, which is another problem. But I looked at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is a massive list. I mean, I pulled off the ordinance here. Here's another page of them, and it goes on and on. Here's more of them. You showed me a picture earlier of one of the weapons that would be banned from being sold in Naperville. Could you describe that? And we'll put a picture up here as well.
It's a youth rifle. It's for kids of the Boy Scouts and stuff learning to shoot. Okay, learning proper gun safety and handling, and maybe even hunting in the future. It's a small, very short rifle. They make them pink and blue and orange and stuff. And it's a single-shot 22 bolt-action rifle. You have to put one bullet in it, operate the bolt, and fire the gun, and then eject it and put another one in. But that gun has a threaded barrel on it. And because of the threaded barrel, that would be considered an assault weapon in their. There is rifling in the barrel, but what it does is it's an external thread on the barrel, and it allows you to put a recoil reducer on it, or flash, or in some states that allow you to have a suppressor, which Illinois does not. You could attach a suppressor to it. So there's a bunch of different reasons. It has a threaded barrel. But what's really weird is that the ordinance says that any threaded barrel. Well, 90% of the firearms, rifles, have threaded barrels because they thread into the receiver of the gun. It's not just on the muzzle end, but it actually threads into it. So 90-something% of the firearms out there have threaded barrels. That's how poorly it's written.
They don't know anything about anything.
They don't. And they cut out pistols, right? So pistols or handguns are not part of the ordinance. They carved that out after my first speech. Well, do they know there's an AR-15 pistol that's designed to be operated by one hand? It shoots the same magazine, the same bullet. It's got a shorter barrel, and it has a stock, and the gun is much shorter in size. The reason for them not wanting a collapsible stock is so that you can't shorten it to help hide it.
Right.
Well, the AR-15 pistol would be perfectly legal because ATF categorizes that as a pistol, a handgun, not a rifle. But they don't know that.
Did you tell them that?
No, I'm not going to tell them that. They're going to find out now.
They'll find out now.
Yeah.
They'll find out now. This is how stupid these people are.
There's also an AK pistol as well.
They're so stupid.
Yeah.
They just
look, because they weren't looking at the issue or trying to figure out all of the dynamics and things that go with, putting a law like this in place. And read it thoroughly.
The other thing is they don't want to listen to the experts. They think they're the experts. They're that arrogant to think that they know everything about, and they don't.
Listen, I offered the council members and the attorney. I said, listen, instead of doing this, why don't we start a task force and try to connect local government with the FOID Act and stuff, and try to tighten up some of the schools and things like that. I said, I'll put in $20,000. I'll write a $20,000 check to help build this task force, and let's try to connect everybody. Let's have the dealers and the police talk more. Let's make sure that that doctors are reporting the mental health issues. Let's make sure that the court systems are reporting, abuse, domestic violence, and things to the state, and tighten those gaps that are there. Because, listen, if we have to run a background check in the state of Illinois, as a dealer, the state of Illinois is the middleman. They've got to collect their money. Most dealers in different states can go directly to the Nix's background check by the FBI and get their immediate response. In Illinois, we have to send it to the state. The state goes to the FBI, gets the background check, comes back to the state, and then the state tells us whether or not we can release the gun, right? Well,
and at the same time, they don't do it all right. Okay,
they
go
don't.
ahead.
They make so many mistakes
That's right.
that these guns, when they say, hey, he's approved to go, he can have that firearm, that is our green light to sell the gun. We've done everything else we should have ahead of time. That's our green light that, okay, this guy's a lawful person. He can own this firearm legally. We have no problem selling to him, and we do, okay? But there's so many times that the state gets it wrong.
Well, in the case of the
don't-
Highland Park shooter,
Absolutely.
they got it wrong.
They sure did.
There's no doubt about that.
But they'll blame us instead of them. Like I said, the way to stop drunk drivers from killing sober drivers is to take away driving from sober drivers. So if there's no sober drivers on the road, the drunk drivers can't kill them. That's sort of the mentality they're having here. The gun is an inanimate object. It doesn't matter what it is. That if somebody is, if some guy wants to commit a horrific crime and they're that mentally ill, they're going to find a way, and it's not the firearm.
No kidding. Now, not long after they had this huge debate about whether or not you're able to purchase a weapon, it was in Indiana at an Indiana mall that a gunman killed 3 people. A gunman who had killed 3 people and injured 2 others at a mall in Greenwood, Indiana, was stopped by a young man, 20-year-old man named Douglas Sepperman, who used an AR-15 style rifle to kill. Oh, I'm sorry.
3 people, right?
Yep, he killed 3 people. Yep, and then he was shot dead by Elijah Dickens, 22, who fired 10 shots at him with his Glock handgun, preventing many more deaths. And the cops couldn't have been there fast enough. Nobody could be there fast enough. There's a reason. Isn't there a reason that people choose an AR-15 for self-defense? Let's talk about that briefly.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of reasons for it. If, let's say this, okay, remember all the riots that have been going on, right? If you have a riot or mob mentality where people, that will do things that they normally wouldn't, but just because everybody else around them is doing it, right? When you have a situation like that, the police can't come in on a riot, the riots we had going on. The police can't come in and protect you. They're trying to protect themselves, and there's so many calls going on. There's, civil unrest. You have no choice but to protect yourself. And if you don't, you're just supposed to just die? No. The AR-15 is able, you'd be able to use that to stop a crowd if they were coming at you, or at least fend them off, where you wouldn't be able to do that with a handgun.
Sure, there's limitations to a shotgun. There's limitations to a handgun.
There sure is.
The AR-15 for folks,
it has its
especially
limitations as well.
Yeah, it has its limitations, but for folks who are maybe less familiar with or don't do a lot of target practicing, aren't that great at it. I mean, a shotgun's only going to give you a couple shots, and if there's more perpetrators coming at you, you need more rounds.
You need more firepower.
Right.
I mean, it's basic. Listen, the bad guys have them. Why should you be outgunned by the bad guys? You should have the right to have them as well. We're not going to stop bad guys from having these guns. You're just not going to do it. So having the firepower at least levels the playing field. Hey, if you're in a fight for your life, I want to have something that's going to at least level the playing field here, or be better than they have, to try to protect myself and my family.
So Heritage.org, Heritage Foundation, does an entire thing called Defensive Gun Uses in the United States. You can go to their website. You can find that out. And there's a number of, in 2021, there was, at least 282 defensive gun incidences where a good guy with a gun took out a bad guy with a gun, right?
Yeah.
And in Naperville, there was a particular one on May 15th, 2021. You had a concealed carry a weapons holder take out somebody right there in Naperville with a gun. I mean, it's not all bad. And in fact, Barack Obama, believe it or not, during his time in office, he had the CDC actually do a study on the use of firearms and stuff. And they found out in that study, the bottom line in that study was that there's estimates that, let me read here. Almost all national survey estimates indicate that defensive gun uses by victims are at least as common as offensive uses by criminals, with estimates of annual uses ranging from about 500,000 to more than 3 million per year. That's defensive uses of weapons.
Use with a firearm, correct.
Yep.
And how much do we hear about that on the media?
Yeah, the report went on to say most felons report obtaining the majority of their firearms from informal sources. Stolen guns account for only a small percentage of the guns used by convicted criminals. They otherwise get them from informal sources. I mean, this is what's important here is that in order to protect yourself, you have the right to protect yourself. Then you have the right to own a weapon.
That's right.
That can do that job.
Yep. And Naperville doesn't have the right to prevent you from acquiring that firearm. Because that is limiting your possession and ownership of the firearm.
Okay, so you're currently filed a lawsuit against the city of Naperville.
Absolutely.
In that regards, I know it's a lawsuit. So to what extent can you discuss that and tell us about that?
We filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Naperville for breaching the constitutional rights of myself and our customers, and we believe that their interpretation of preventing the sale from a licensed, federally licensed dealer is somehow not against the Constitution is absolutely wrong. We are allowed to not only possess and own and bear arms, but by stopping or preventing somebody from acquiring them is preventing them from owning them, right? So if and what's for them to say, well, you can't put them on a billboard, or you can't, talk about them. It has nothing to do with stopping somebody from committing a crime. It's simply not unconstitutional, and we're going to fight it till the end. I asked the city of Naperville. I told them, everybody, the mayor, the attorneys, and the councilman. I said, look, carve me out of this. Leave me alone. I do good for the city. We've taught 17,000 people concealed carry classes. We've destroyed thousands and thousands of crime guns for police departments, cut them up, melted them down, and destroyed them for them. We've serialized all these guns. We take care of the police guns first. We maintain their firearms. We manufacture guns specifically for law enforcement use. Leave me out of this, and I wouldn't do anything about it. I'd be, I didn't want to be self-serving or seem self-serving by asking them to, put this rule in effect for any incoming.
Right,
but
grandfather
I said,
you in.
Leave me alone, grandfather me in, and let's go there. Let's let it die. And they said to me, no. That I said, listen, some of the other FFLs may not have the wherewithal to fight you, and you know that. I said, you're only affecting me. I said, I will fight you. When moms demand action and League of Women voters leave the city, I'm going to still be there, and I'm going to continue to fight until the end. I will take it to the Seventh Circuit to the last, breath of my ability. I'm going to fight this. Now, I probably will have to leave Naperville anyway because I think that they're going to be pretty upset that I've taken this route, and they'll find other reasons to get me out of the city, and I have to accept that as as a human being and for my family, and it's hard to do. So, and this is not going to be a cheap, cheap lawsuit, right? It's
no. So
very
how can people support you in your lawsuit efforts?
Well, we're asking anybody that can afford to donate, please do, to our. We have a Give, Send, Go account that's set up. There's a link right on our website at lawweapons.org where they can actually, donate right there. We need all the help we possibly can, and this Naperville is the tip of the spear. If this goes through
Yes.
in Naperville, you've got 30 or 40 other municipalities that are looking at doing this, and we have to stop them now. Otherwise, they're gonna pull this throughout all of Illinois. Every other gun shop and every gun owner, the end result is a gun grab. Right, it's taking away your firearm and your rights, and if you let it start,
what they want to do. Exactly what they want to do. They want to shut down you because you're the conduit for legal sales. You're the conduit for the transfer of legal weapons as well. They don't understand it. There are very strict rules surrounding gun ownership. When my son left the military, he's got his Ranger tab, infantry officer, brought his weapons back, his guns that he uses for hunting from Alaska. In order to take possession of them in the state of Illinois, he had to go through an FFL. He could not take possession with him other than going through an FFL.
Right. That's absolutely correct.
That is absolutely correct.
These
and
laws,
they don't want you, they don't care who you are, what your background is, what you want to, anything about you. They want to shut down all transfers of any weapon, guns, period. And they're not going to solve a damn thing in this state by doing so.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be worse.
Yeah, I think it's going to definitely be worse. And the weird thing is that they don't care whether they're going to kill my business or not. They don't care about my family or anything else. They literally will put us out of business because they want to get a better office or a higher seat in a different office. That's all it is.
Voters need to wake up. Wake up.
Absolutely, wake up.
Your constitutional
and everybody has to
rights
vote.
are on the ballot when you vote for these insane politicians. Your constitutional rights are on the ballot, and so's your wallet.
Yep.
Rob, thank you so much for joining me on The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. This has been very informative, and I hope a lot of people pay attention.
Yes, I do too. And thank you for having me. And any further questions or anything you need to know, you feel free to contact me.
And we're going to pop up on the screen where they can go to donate. Do you have a website, though?
Yes, it's lawweapons.org.
Lawweapons.org.
Correct.
Go to that website and donate to his lawsuit against the city of Naperville. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.